Channel Fear Zone, your horror channel. Before I start the story, I warn you that I read all your comments on my videos, but YouTube is blocking my answers to your comments. Maybe this happens because I am in Brazil, but I still see and read all your comments. And now we go to the video. Good evening everyone, and today's story is from Mr. Matson, and this happened to him in the city of Santa Barbara do Oeste, which is in the state of Sao Paulo, and at that time, which was in the year 1993, Mr. Matson was 32 years old. I live in the south of Bahia, but I always went to the state of Sao Paulo to work in the sugarcane fields. But at a certain time, many years ago, I went to work in a mill as a sugarcane cutter on the plantations. But after a few months a new worker arrived at the mill. His name was Enrique, and he came to sleep in my room, and this guy was not one to talk much, but even so I had a little friendship with him. I noticed that at lunchtime of the workers, this Enrique did not eat salt, because one day he got angry when I threw salt on his salad, and he did not see, as soon as this guy put the salad in his mouth, but he quickly spit the salad out and went to the bathroom to wash his mouth. Of course, I didn't think this was normal. For me, this guy had some problem with salt, which was a mystery to me, because this man had some strange sores in his mouth, because he had a salt allergy. Well, the days went by, and soon I and another friend from my room started to see that Enrique once or twice a week he slept outside the dorm, and he would come back bruised in the morning, but as it was Enrique's life, I had nothing to do with it, and I let it go. One day, a man who worked with me in the sugarcane field invited me to visit a place in town, and I accepted the invitation because he had a car. After spending a few hours at this place, we decided to go back to the mill. We started to walk with the car to the lodging and took several dirt roads on the way, because this place of lodging was close to the sugarcane plantations. Finally, soon after a road, we passed near a man holding a chicken in his hands. I was surprised, because this man was Enrique who slept in my room. I was amazed to see this guy in that place at night, because I already suspected that he did something wrong at dawn, because he only came back when it was dawn. And the mystery for me at that moment is that this man was walking in this isolated and distant place, and so my driver friend stopped the car on the road, and we decided to follow this man to see what he was going to do in that place. As soon as we got out of the car, we were walking slowly and chasing Enrique along the dirt road. Then we saw that he entered a forest and was walking through the vegetation. We began to follow him through the dark woods quietly so that Enrique would not find us. And it was easy to follow him in that darkness because he walked with his flashlight on. But after chasing him for about 5 minutes, Enrique stopped in a place and tied the chicken to a tree. Well, to our surprise, another man arrived by the place, and he also brought a chicken holding in his hands, so the two suspects started talking, but then they turned off the flashlight lights, and soon to our amazement, the two guys started making a lot of noises, as if they were feeling some kind of strong pain, and they were screaming a lot. Me and my friend were scared, and we thought that these guys were messing with some kind of heavy black magic, and that maybe they were even possessed by an evil entity. But then the noises stopped, even so we decided to leave this place. But then we heard a kind of low and scary growl that seemed to be from some kind of large animal. Suddenly we heard the chickens being attacked by something, and for me it was some kind of dangerous animal that did this. I wanted to leave this place without making any noise, but we heard something running through the vegetation and shaking some bushes close to us. At this time my partner got desperate and ran scared into the bush, and I ran too, not to be attacked. But to my surprise, I heard more noises of the animal running through the vegetation, and it was following me. As I was running in the woods, and I saw the barbed wire fence near the dirt road, my friend was waiting in front of his car. As I was running close to the fence, I started screaming in desperation, and my friend saw me, and he picked up some rocks from the ground and started throwing them at the animal that was chasing me. As soon as I jumped over that fence from the road and fell to the ground, I was surprised by what I saw, because I looked at the fence and saw a huge black creature with lit eyes trying to get through the wires of the fence. But my friend kept throwing rocks at this beast so that this weird animal couldn't get through the wires and catch me. This friend of mine called me to get into the car quickly. I got up from the ground and ran to his car and got into the car, but as soon as I looked at the fence again, I saw that animal stunned because of the stones that it had been hit on the head. Right after that, another one of these creatures also appeared that saw the wire fence, but this creature ran through the forest on 4 legs, like a dog, and soon disappeared. My friend said that the 2 werewolves were trying to surround us, and because of this my partner started the car, and we left that place very scared. As we drove along the road, and when we entered another dirt road, we saw another one of these creatures that chased me into the woods, and this beast also had lighted and shining eyes, and this werewolf ran in the middle of the road on 4 legs, and soon he went into the woods scared because of the light from the car headlight. Well, as I saw such a beast standing upright and looking like a person and walking on 2 legs, to me, it was clear that these 2 beasts were werewolves. Finally, after driving along many roads, we arrived at the dormitory of the power plant where we were staying, and we didn't see Enrique, who was in the bush with the chickens, because he hadn't arrived yet, and his cot was empty. I started to get very worried about this boy that was sleeping in my room, and that I had seen in the bush with a chicken, because he could have been caught by the werewolves. I began to suspect Enrique, because after he and his friend turned off the lights of the flashlights, the 2 suspects began to scream in pain, and then 2 animals appeared, and to me those 2 beasts were werewolves. I began to think that the 2 creatures were Enrique and his friend. However, the hours went by, and this guy that turned into a werewolf didn't show up at the lodging. But when dawn came, I went to cut cane in the plantations, and I didn't find Enrique. Soon my working hours were over, and as soon as I arrived at the lodging to take a shower, I saw that Enrique's things were no longer in his closet. So I asked the workers if anyone knew what happened to Enrique. But one of the guys who worked as a cane cutter said that he saw Enrique sneaking into the barracks, and he was very scared and strange, but he was also very injured, with some marks on his body, as if he had been scratched by some animal, and after that he took his things and left. But a few days later, the police came to our lodging and told us that a man had appeared dead and naked in the middle of the forest, and it was a guy who worked at the mill too, but this guy was killed by some kind of large animal because of the types of claw wounds and bites from some kind of beast. However, for me, it was very clear that the 2 guys that were in the woods that night had turned into werewolves and had a disagreement and ended up fighting, and so one of the beasts ended up dying in this confrontation. But there is also the case of Henry, that he had an allergy to salt, and we all know that salt helps to expel supernatural creatures. After this whole story, I stayed until the end of the months of harvest, and at least I did not see anything else different happen, but what perplexed me is that I saw 2 werewolves on the same night, and these creatures exist and attack people. And this was my experience that I had with these beasts. Good, thank you for watching the video, and if you liked it, leave your like and subscribe to the channel to receive new content every week. Until the next story.